The Whisper begins. The story began not with a battle, not with an explosion, but with a whisper. It was a quiet rumor, passed from one trader to another, in the dark corners of a spaceport tavern. A single line of gossip that carried both fear and curiosity. A human warship has been seen in the Forbidden Zone. At first, no one believed it. The Forbidden Zone was not a place where ships returned from. It was a place of legends, a black scar in the map of the galaxy, where stars flickered strangely and signals vanished into silence. No empire claimed it. No map marked it clearly. Only one word was always written over that dark space. Forbidden. The tavern was full of travelers, alien merchants with glowing skin, rough miners covered in dust, and smugglers who had seen too many dangerous things. They laughed when they heard the rumor. A human warship in the Forbidden Zone? Impossible. Humans would never dare. Humans were reckless, yes, but not foolish enough to send their greatest weapon into a place where even light seemed to die. But still the whisper spread. One voice became two. Two became 10. In every corner of the galaxy, people began to talk. Was it a legend, a lie, or something more? In the trade hub of Aram Station, the gossip grew stronger. A group of alien traders sat around a circular table, their drinks untouched. "I heard it from a pilot," one said, his scales flickering nervously. "He saw a shadow, a huge ship drifting half hidden in the dark. He swears it was human design." Another shook his head. "Humans don't go there. Not since the old wars. They stay away like everyone else." "But what if it's true?" a third whispered, leaning close. "What if the humans are hiding something in that zone? Something powerful. Something dangerous." The table went quiet. None of them wanted to say it out loud, but all of them thought the same thing. If humans had truly sent a warship into the Forbidden Zone, then something big was happening. Something that could shake the balance of the galaxy. Meanwhile, in the shadowed corners of the station, a different pair of eyes listened. A spy, cloaked in silence, recording every word. He did not laugh at the gossip. He did not dismiss it as a drunk's tale. For him, every whisper was important because sometimes whispers grew into storms. He sent the report to his masters. Rumors of human warship in Forbidden Zone, spreading fast. The message left the station, traveling through encrypted channels, until it reached the hands of those who feared humans the most. In a council chamber far from Aram Station, alien leaders gathered. The room was filled with tension. "These stories are lies," one shouted. "Humans are not so bold." "And yet," another answered calmly, "how many lies have begun this way? A rumor, a shadow, a ship half seen. Do you not remember the last war? How the humans fooled us with half-truths and whispers before their fleets arrived?" The chamber fell silent. Everyone remembered. Humans had once fought wars that nearly destroyed star systems. They had vanished from great conflicts after that, retreating into silence, but their memory remained sharp. The idea of them returning, especially in a place like the Forbidden Zone, was enough to make even the strongest leaders uneasy. But the gossip did not stop there. In mining camps at the edge of the galaxy, workers repeated the story while digging rare metals from frozen asteroids. In marketplaces on distant moons, merchants argued about it while selling strange fruits and glowing crystals. Even smugglers, who trusted no one, whispered the same words as they passed illegal goods through hidden ports. A human warship in the Forbidden Zone. The rumor grew louder, faster, like a storm moving across space. For most, it was nothing more than talk, a story to pass the time. But for some, it was different. For some, the words carried a sharp edge of fear. A human warship was not like any other ship. It was not simply a vessel of steel and engines. It was a memory, a threat, a reminder of what humans once were. Even after centuries, the galaxy remembered the fire of human wars. They remembered fleets that moved like storms, battles that burned, planets and weapons that no one else dared to create. If such a ship had truly entered the Forbidden Zone, then why? What reason could be great enough to risk that cursed place? One old captain sat alone in his quarters, listening to the whispers from his crew. He closed his eyes and remembered a younger age when he had fought against humans in the last war. His scar still burned when he thought of their warships, dark giants filled with fire. He whispered to himself, voice trembling, "If the gossip is true, then everything changes." In the end, no one knew the truth. Was it only gossip, born from fear and imagination, or was it a hidden reality, carefully disguised as rumor? The Forbidden Zone stayed silent. No ship came out. No proof was seen. Only the whisper continued, spreading from world to world, like smoke carried on the wind. And somewhere, hidden deep in the shadows of space, something stirred. Something was waiting. The warship's shadow. The whispers did not fade. Instead, they grew stronger, sharper, more detailed. By now, the rumor was not only a tavern story. It had reached military ears, political councils, and the hidden networks of spies. Everywhere the same question was asked. What is moving inside? The Forbidden Zone? On the edge of the Orion Spur, an old listening station caught something unusual. The station had been abandoned for years, its equipment rusting and its halls silent. But one satellite still spun in the dark, its sensors tired but awake. That night, the sensors screamed. The computer picked up a signal, broken, distorted, but still alive. It carried the sharp edges of human design. The signal repeated again and again like a heartbeat in the void. It was an old Earth military code, one not used for centuries. The signal was quickly dismissed by the lazy workers at the station. Just background noise, they said. Ghost code, nothing real. But the data did not vanish. A young technician copied it secretly and sold it to a smuggler. Within days, the smuggler sold it again, and soon the proof of the rumor spread across space. In the council chambers of the Veyron Empire, leaders stared at the report. "It is a trick," one of them hissed, his voice shaking. "Humans play with shadows. They want us afraid." Another leaned closer, his 4 eyes narrowing. Or maybe the gossip was not gossip after all. Maybe the humans really have sent a warship. The room fell into silence. Everyone knew what that meant. Humans did not build ordinary ships. They built monsters. Ships that could tear apart fleets. Weapons that could turn worlds to fire. The image of such a warship drifting in the Forbidden Zone was enough to stir old fears, but not everyone was afraid. Some were curious. In a lonely mining outpost, a freighter pilot named Darren sat with shaking hands telling his story. "I saw it," he whispered to the others. "Not close, not clear, but I saw it." The room went still. The miners leaned closer. "It was huge," Darren said, eyes wide with memory. Not like any alien design. The shape was sharp, angular, too perfect. It glowed with a dull red, like fire buried under steel. It wasn't moving fast. It was waiting, the miners muttered among themselves. Some laughed, others frowned. But Darren did not laugh. His voice cracked as he added, "When my ship passed near, my sensors died. My engines almost froze. It was like the ship pulled the power out of space itself." The miners did not speak after that. They only sat in silence, each man wondering if Darren spoke the truth. The story spread. Merchants carried it to starports. Spies whispered it to their masters. Soon, entire worlds debated it. A human warship, alive in the Forbidden Zone. The galaxy divided itself in thought. Some believed it was only fear dressed as rumor. Others believed the shadow was real. But all agreed on one thing. If the humans had returned with such a weapon, nothing would remain the same. In secret halls on Earth, human diplomats faced questions. Alien leaders demanded answers. "Is it true?" they asked. "Have you sent a warship into the zone?" But the humans only smiled. "We know nothing of such stories," they said calmly. "Perhaps it is your people who play tricks." The silence behind their smiles was heavier than words. It was a silence that made the aliens even more afraid, because silence too could be a weapon. Weeks later, A strange event shook the gossip again. A small probe, owned by a scavenger crew, drifted too close to the forbidden zone. It picked up a burst of energy, raw, violent, like the echo of a great engine. For 3 seconds, the probe captured an image before its signal cut. The picture was blurry, broken with static, but in the center of it, barely clear, was a shape. A warship. The hull lines were human, the design was unmistakable, and yet, it was different, larger, darker, more advanced than anything ever known from Earth. The scavenger crew tried to sell the picture. Some laughed at it, others claimed it was fake. But when the council saw it, fear turned into anger. In the throne world of the Dralith, combined, the High General slammed his claws against the table. "If the humans have entered the Forbidden Zone, it is an act of war," he roared. "We cannot wait for them to strike. We must move first." But another voice, softer, wiser, spoke from the shadows. Or perhaps it is not a warship at all. Perhaps it is something older, something buried in the Forbidden Zone long before humans were born. And maybe the humans have awakened it. The council chamber grew quiet. The idea was more terrifying than war itself. Across the galaxy, the shadow of the rumor grew into something larger. It was no longer just gossip. It was a story that every world repeated, a story that carried fear and fire in its path. Was it truly a human warship? Or was it something else? Something darker, using the shape of human steel to hide its true face. The Forbidden Zone remained silent. But in that silence, the shadow grew stronger. And every night, in every corner of the galaxy, people ask themselves the same question. If the warship is real, what is it waiting for? The witness. The galaxy had enough of whispers. Rumors, codes, and blurry images were easy to doubt. People wanted proof. Clear, sharp, undeniable proof. And then, proof arrived. It came not from a soldier, not from a spy, but from a miner. His name was Kelrin Vey. He was no warrior, no politician, no trained observer. He was only a man who dug rocks from the void and sold them for credits. But sometimes history chooses strange messengers. Kelrin's small ship, Dust Chaser, was built for work, not war. Its engines were weak, its shields thinner than paper. But it had sensors, cheap, half-broken, yet still alive. That night, as Kelrin searched for ores near the edge of the Forbidden Zone, his ship shook. Lights flickered, screens died for a moment, and then returned with static. Kelrin cursed, thinking another power failure had arrived. But then he saw it. A shape. At first it was nothing but a shadow against the darkness, larger than any asteroid, moving too slowly to be natural. His hands froze on the controls. His heart pounded. The shadow was not random. It was sharp, angular, perfect. The kind of lines no rock could form, the kind of lines only warships carried. Kelrin did not breathe as the ship came closer, silent and massive. His sensors collapsed again. His comms died. Even the air inside his cabin seemed heavier. It was as if the giant ship was pulling energy out of the void itself. For one endless minute, Kelrin stared at it. The hull was black, but faint red lights pulsed across it, glowing like veins of fire under steel. Human design. No mistake. He had seen old archive images before. The shape, the weapons, the angles, it was all there. But this ship was different. Bigger, stronger, almost alive. And then, as suddenly as it appeared, it turned. Slowly, calmly, the warship slid back into the shadows of the zone. Within seconds, it was gone. Kelrin sat in silence. His hands shook so badly he could barely hold the controls. He did not know if he had seen a ghost, a machine, or the end of everything. When he returned to the station, Kelrin told his story. At first, people laughed. "You drank too much," they said. "You imagined it. You dreamed it." But Kelrin did not laugh. His eyes were wide, his voice steady with terror. "I saw it," he repeated again and again. "It was real. A human warship, glowing red. I swear it." The laughter grew quieter. because there was something in his tone, something raw, something no liar could fake. Soon the station carried only one topic: Kelrin's sighting. The story spread like fire. Traders told it in markets. Spies repeated it in coded reports. Even smugglers, men who trusted nothing, shared it in hushed voices. And every time the story was told, it grew sharper. Details Kelrin never said were added. Massive cannons, glowing symbols, a whisper of engines that sounded like thunder. Some believed, some doubted, but no one ignored it. For the first time, the rumor had a face, not just static signals or broken images, but a living witness. On the world of Zathor Prime, alien officials held an emergency meeting. Kelrin's testimony was brought before them. "He is a miner," one scoffed. "A fool. Why do we waste time on him?" But another leaned closer, reading the report. "Because his description matches the signal data. Because his story carries the same silence, the same drain of power, as the probe that vanished near the zone." The officials exchanged uneasy looks. Too many pieces were fitting together. Too many shadows were pointing to the same truth. But not everyone saw fear. Some saw opportunity. A group of scavengers, hungry for treasure, packed their ships and prepared to dive into the zone. If a warship truly drifted there, its wreckage would be worth more than entire worlds. "They say it's alive," one muttered nervously. "Then we'll find out," their captain grinned. "If humans built it, we'll sell it. If it's something else, we'll still sell it." Greed blinded them. They ignored the silence, the danger, the warnings carved into history. Meanwhile, Kelrin could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the glowing veins of the ship, pulsing like a heartbeat. He heard the silence of space pressing against his ears. The more he remembered, the more he wondered, had the ship truly left? Or was it watching him even now, hidden in the dark, waiting for him to speak too much? He began to fear not only the ship, but also the people around him, because already strangers had begun to follow him, spies from councils, hunters from empires, all wanting to know what he had seen. Kelran had no power. He was only a miner. But in his memory, he carried a secret heavy enough to move the galaxy. In a quiet chamber, an alien lord listened to Kelran's words through a secret recording. The lord's eyes narrowed. "If this is true," he whispered, "then the galaxy is standing at the edge of a storm. Humans have returned, or something has returned in their name." And so the gossip changed once again. It was no longer just rumor, no longer just signal or shadow. Now there was a witness, Kelrin Vey, miner, dreamer, survivor, the man who looked into the Forbidden Zone and saw the shadow of a human warship, alien fear. The galaxy no longer treated the gossip as gossip. After Kelrin Vey's testimony, after the broken signals and blurry images, the whispers had transformed into something larger. They had become fear. Across worlds and empires, leaders gathered in council chambers, temples, and war halls. No matter their language, no matter their species, the same words returned again and again: a human warship in the Forbidden Zone. In the glittering towers of the Veyron Empire, the High Council met. The chamber was vast, with crystal walls that glowed faintly with the light of distant stars. "This is madness," one elder said, his voice sharp. "We are speaking of gossip, of the story of a miner. We cannot guide policy by rumors." But another leaned forward, his scales shifting color with unease. "It is not only the miner. The signals were real. The images were real. And you know, as well as I do, humans have the technology to hide their moves." The room fell silent. Everyone remembered the old wars. Everyone remembered how humans used shadows and tricks, half-truths and silence, before striking with fire. "If they are in the zone," a third elder whispered, "then they are hiding something, something no one else must see." On the world of Drethus, the Drelith Combine held its own meeting. The air in their chamber was thick with smoke, their claws clicking nervously against the stone table. "Do you not see what this means?" their High General roared. "If humans are building ships in the Forbidden Zone, they prepare for war." Another elder, older and wiser, shook his head. Or perhaps the ship is not theirs. Perhaps something older sleeps in that zone and the humans only woke it. The room filled with murmurs. The idea was worse than war. The Forbidden Zone had always been feared for a reason. It was not just empty space. It was a place where something unnatural lived. If the humans had touched it, then maybe they had unleashed something no empire could control. In hidden corners of the galaxy, even ordinary people felt the fear. On trade stations, merchants sold charms to ward off the human ghost ship. On mining colonies, families whispered warnings to their children, telling them not to look at the stars too long. Even smugglers began avoiding the space near the zone, though they never admitted it out loud. The fear was spreading faster than truth, but fear was dangerous. Fear led to action. In the capital of the Threx Alliance, fleets were quietly moved. Warships gathered in hidden docks. Crews were trained in secret. No one admitted the reason, but everyone knew. If the humans are truly building in the zone, one admiral muttered, then we must be ready. We cannot wait for them to strike first. The Alliance had not fought humans for centuries, but their memories were sharp. They remembered battles where entire fleets vanished in a single night. They remembered planets that burned under human fire. The thought of facing such power again made their claws tremble, but it also lit the fire of survival. And yet, not all empires wanted war. Some wanted knowledge. On the research world of Halloris, scientists debated for days. We must investigate, one said. If the ship is real, it could be the key to forgotten technology. Another shook her head. Or the key to death. The zone eats everything, no one comes back. But still they prepared probes, drones, and machines. For them, fear was not enough to stop curiosity. Meanwhile, Kelrin Vey, the miner who had seen the ship, found himself hunted by shadows. Strangers followed him through markets, asking questions, offering money, or making threats. He realized something terrible. The warship was not only a weapon of fear, it was also a weapon of greed. Every empire, every council, every spy wanted a piece of it. And Kelrin, simple miner, was caught in the center. Back in the halls of power, one truth became clear to all leaders. If the human warship was real, then the balance of the galaxy had already shifted. If it was only gossip, then the fear itself could still trigger war. Both answers were dangerous. One empire, the Korath Dominion, made its decision first. Their supreme commander stood before his generals, eyes burning with cold fire. We cannot wait. Humans are liars. If they smile, it is because they are hiding a blade. If they are silent, it is because they prepare to strike. We will not wait for their warship to move. We will send our fleet into the zone. The generals roared in agreement, but deep inside, fear lingered. Because the Forbidden Zone was not a battlefield, it was a graveyard. And now they were marching into it. Across the galaxy, the fear grew heavier. Governments argued, fleets moved, scientists prepared missions, ordinary people prayed. The shadow of the human warship had become more powerful than any weapon. It had turned the entire galaxy into a trembling beast, waiting for the strike of an unseen hunter. And still, the zone remained silent. No signals, no answers, no truth. Only the memory of Kelrin's words. Only the echo of red lights pulsing on a steel giant. In the end, every empire asked itself the same question, whispered behind closed doors. If the warship is real, do we face it, or do we run? Human silence. The galaxy waited for an answer. The eye. Rumors had grown too large to ignore, and now entire empires demanded the truth. If a human warship was hiding in the Forbidden Zone, then humanity must know. If it was not true, then only humans could deny it. So the questions were sent. Messages crossed light years. Councils demanded meetings. Ambassadors traveled to Earth. Everywhere the same words repeated, "Is the warship yours?" And humanity answered, with silence. In the halls of the Terran Union, the leaders met. The chamber was carved deep under the soil of Earth, protected by layers of stone and steel. Screens glowed with the faces of generals, admirals, and diplomats. "They are afraid," one admiral said, his voice steady. "Their fleets are moving. They want us to deny it." "Then let us deny it," a diplomat suggested. "We can calm them, say it is not ours." But another voice, colder, interrupted. "And if it is ours? If we deny too much, they will dig deeper. Better to say nothing. Silence is stronger than words." The chamber grew quiet. Silence was a weapon humanity had always used well. It forced others to wonder, to doubt, to fear. Finally, the decision was made. No denial, no admission, only calm smiles and vague words. Across the galaxy, human ambassadors delivered the same message to every council. "We know nothing of such rumors. Perhaps it is only gossip. Perhaps it is something else. If there is danger in the zone, then it is not of our making." The words were soft, polite, but the silence behind them was heavier than steel, because silence left a question burning in every alien heart. What if the humans are lying? "In the Veyron Empire," the council shouted in frustration. "They mock us," one cried. "They play games while we tremble." But another spoke more carefully. "Do not you see? Their silence is the answer. If it were false, they would deny. If it were true, they would stay quiet. And they are quiet." The room filled with unease. Silence, they realized, was more terrifying than proof. Meanwhile, in the hidden corners of space, spies moved. They tried to steal human data, to break into comms, to follow secret ships. But they found little. The humans had always guarded their secrets well. What they did find only added to the fear. Old reports of experimental projects, lost fleets, warships that had vanished centuries ago, weapons that were tested then hidden. One spy whispered to his master, "Maybe the ship is not new. Maybe it is old. Something the humans built long ago. And now they have returned to claim it." The thought spread like poison. Among ordinary people, the silence felt worse than war. On the planet Rava, a merchant cried out in the market, "Why do the humans not speak? If they are innocent, why do they stay silent?" Another whispered, "Because guilty men do not need to speak." On mining colonies, workers told each other that human fleets were already gathering, hidden in deep space. On trade stations, smugglers swore that human spies were everywhere, watching, listening. The silence had become its own kind of voice. Kelrin Vey, the miner who had seen the ship, felt the silence more than anyone. Since his return, strangers had chased him, some offering bribes, others offering death. But from humans he received nothing. No warning, no threat, no words. It was as if they were waiting for him to speak too much, waiting for him to make the wrong choice. Every night he dreamed of the warship's glowing veins pulsing like blood. In the dream, the silence was louder than thunder. On the world of Halaris, scientists debated humanity's silence. "They are hiding something," one said. "If they were innocent, they would deny. This proves the warship is theirs." Another argued, "Or perhaps they know nothing. Perhaps their silence is real." But a third, older and wiser, said quietly, "Silence is never empty. It always carries weight, and humans know this better than anyone." The others could not answer, because they knew he was right. In the capital of the Dralith Combine, the High General slammed his fist against the table. "Enough waiting. Humans give us silence, so we will answer with fire. We will send fleets into the Forbidden Zone. If the ship is theirs, we will destroy it. If it is not, then we will destroy whatever waits inside." But the elder beside him spoke softly. "Do you not understand? That is what they want. They want us to enter first, to bleed ourselves against the darkness. That is why they are silent. Because silence is a trap." The general said nothing after that. Across the galaxy, silence spread. It was heavier than sound, more powerful than proof. It was the silence of hunters, the silence before war, the silence of deep water waiting to swallow. The Forbidden Zone itself seemed to echo it. No signals, no transmissions, only darkness. And in that silence, fear grew louder. One thing became certain to every empire, every council, every ordinary person who looked at the stars. The humans knew something, and they would not speak. The forbidden zone speaks. For months, the galaxy had lived with silence. Silence from humans, silence from the forbidden zone. Fleets moved, councils argued, spies hunted, but the dark region of space remained quiet. Too quiet. And then, at last, the zone answered. It began with a tremor, a shockwave, faint at first, rolling through the blackness like the breath of a giant. The wave struck a cluster of probes drifting near the zone's edge. 2 of them were torn apart instantly, their metal bodies twisted like paper. The others recorded only fragments, distorted flashes, broken signals, and screams of static. The data returned to the galaxy, carried on fragile beams of light. What it showed was enough to freeze even the bravest generals. A probe, just before it died, had captured an image, wreckage drifting from inside the zone. Pieces of torn hulls, fragments of alien metal, shattered beyond recognition. At first, no one understood. But analysis revealed the truth. The wreckage belonged to a ship, a warship of the Korath Dominion. It had entered the zone days earlier, its commander vowing to uncover the truth. Now it was gone. Nothing survived except broken metal, floating, like bones in space. The zone had swallowed another fleet, but this time it did not stay quiet. In the Varen Council, panic broke the chamber's calm. They sent a full warship, one shouted. A strong vessel, fully armed, and look what became of it. Another leaned forward, his voice trembling. Something destroyed it, something powerful, not just the silence of the zone, something alive. The room fell into a heavy hush. Everyone knew the truth behind his words. The Forbidden Zone had always been feared, but never had it sent pieces back. Never had it spoken so loudly. And now it had answered with wreckage. In mining stations, the story spread like fire. Workers told each other the zone was awake, that it had teeth, that it had swallowed a mighty warship as easily as dust. Merchants in crowded markets whispered of curses, of ancient weapons buried in the dark. Smugglers swore that the wreckage was proof of something worse, that the human warship was not alone, that it had destroyed the Korath ship to keep its secret safe. Everywhere the fear grew sharper. But not all fear came from the wreckage. One probe had also recorded something else, a pulse of light, faint and crimson, shining through the zone just before the warship died. The light was not natural. It was a pattern, a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Scientists argued over it. Some said it was energy, perhaps from a weapon. Others swore it was a signal, a call from something hidden deep inside. But all agreed on one thing. It was not random. The Forbidden Zone had spoken. Kelran, Faye the miner who had once seen the shadow, heard the news with dread. He remembered the glowing veins of red across the ship's hull. Now the zone itself pulsed with the same color. It wasn't just a warship, he whispered to himself. It was alive, or something inside it was alive. The thought haunted him, stronger than ever. What he had seen was not only steel. It had been something greater, something darker, and now it had killed again. On the throne world of the Drellith Combine, the High General slammed his fist against the table. This proves it. The humans control the zone. They destroyed the Korath ship to protect their war machine. But Elder shook his head slowly. Or perhaps the zone itself destroyed it. Perhaps the warship is not theirs at all. Perhaps it belongs to the zone. The word sent a chill through the room. If the zone could build ships, if it could breathe life into steel, then it was not just a place of death. It was a power, a force, a predator waiting in the dark. Across the galaxy, fleets were put on high, alert. Soldiers whispered prayers. Civilians locked themselves inside their homes as if walls could shield them from the fear. And yet curiosity burned. The wreckage drew scavengers like blood draws sharks. Small ships crept toward the zone, desperate to steal fragments of alien metal, desperate to find even a piece of the truth. Some returned with twisted scraps worth fortunes. Others never returned at all. The zone was no longer just silence. It was a living warning. And still, humanity remained quiet. No denial. No admission. Only calm smiles from their diplomats and stillness from their admirals. For the aliens, this silence became unbearable. "Why do they not speak?" one council member cried. "Do they not see the fear they cause?" But another answered bitterly, "That is their plan. The silence is their weapon. They know the zone has spoken, and they wait for us to break first." In the shadows of the Forbidden Zone, wreckage continued to drift. Some pieces floated outward, carried by invisible currents. Others vanished deeper inside, pulled by forces no one understood. And sometimes, among the fragments, something else appeared. A blurred shape. A massive outline, darker than the void itself. Too large, too perfect to be natural. But every time a probe tried to focus, the image cut away. The shadow slipped back into silence. The zone had spoken once, and everyone knew it would speak again. The only question was, when it did, would the galaxy survive the sound? The truth or the lie? The Forbidden Zone had spoken once, with wreckage, and silence turned violent. But the galaxy demanded more. Fear alone was not enough. They wanted proof. They wanted to see the warship with their own eyes. And at last they did. It began with a drone, not a military probe, not a council mission, but a scavenger's tool. A small machine, barely the size of a child, designed to crawl through wreckage and steal pieces of scrap. The drone belonged to a scavenger crew too poor to own proper ships. They drifted near the zone's edge, hungry for fortune, desperate enough to risk death. When their sensors caught the drifting remains of the Korath warship, they sent the drone in. At first, the drone recorded only bones of metal, twisted beams, and shattered engines. But then, in the corner of the screen, something moved. A shadow. The scavengers froze. Their breath caught as the drone turned. And there it was. A warship. It filled the screen, too large to capture in one frame. Its hull was black, darker than the void, but red veins pulsed across it like blood under skin. Weapons stretched along its sides, silent and cold. Its shape was unmistakable. Human design. Sharp angles, steel born of Earth's forges. But it was not just human. It was more. Larger, older, heavier, as if time itself had added layers to its body. It looked less like a machine and more like a beast carved from fire and shadow. The scavengers trembled. "It's real," one whispered. The gossip was true. "No," another said softly. "It's worse." The drone drew closer. It scanned the surface, capturing markings burned into the hull. Some were human military codes, forgotten symbols from ancient wars. But others were not human at all. Strange glyphs, alien curves, carved deep as scars, the scavengers argued. Maybe humans built it with alien help. Or maybe something else built it and humans only claimed it. The debate was cut short when the drone's feed shook. The warship's hull glowed brighter. The red veins pulsed faster, like a heart waking from deep sleep. And then, eyes. Two, blazing red lights opened on the ship's prow, glaring into the dark. The scavengers screamed. In distant councils, leaders watched the recording live. It had been hacked and sold across dozens of networks before the scavenger crew could even hide it. Whole worlds tuned in. Billions of eyes saw what had once been only rumor. The human warship was no longer gossip. It was truth. Or was it? Because in the last moment of the recording, before the drone was destroyed, something happened. The ship moved. Not like a machine. Not like a vessel pushed by engines. It turned its massive body slowly, deliberately, as if it were alive. The red lights fixed on the drone, and then, without firing, without warning, the drone's signal cut. Silence. The galaxy exploded with chaos. On the streets of Aram Station, people shouted in fear. Some claimed humans had returned with unstoppable weapons. Others swore it was not human at all, that something older was using human design as camouflage. In the halls of power, generals demanded war. If it is human, we must strike before they do, they cried. But others whispered of something worse. If it is not human, then we face an enemy even humans fear. And what of humanity? The councils demanded answers again, louder than ever. Is this your ship? They asked. Do you claim this monster? Human ambassadors stood calm, their faces unreadable. We do not comment on gossip, they said. And still, they smiled. The silence was heavier than any denial. Kelrin Vey, the miner who had first seen the shadow, listened to the broadcasts with shaking hands. He remembered the glowing veins, the crushing silence, the sense of being watched. Now, the galaxy had seen what he saw, but he felt no relief, only dread. Because in his heart, he knew the truth. The warship was not waiting for councils or generals or scavengers. It was waiting for something else, something bigger. And when it finally moved, no one would be safe. In the darkness of the zone, the warship drifted, silent, still, patient. But its red veins glowed brighter with every passing day, as if the heart, inside it beat faster and faster, waiting, watching. The galaxy trembled. Was it human? Was it alien? Was it a weapon or a monster? No one could agree. But one truth echoed everywhere, from the richest councils to the poorest colonies. The warship was real, and reality was far more terrifying than rumor. Final words whispered across the galaxy, carried on frightened lips, prayers, and screams, legend or reality. Now everyone knew it was reality. But the real question remained, whose reality was it?